How can you make more money as a freelancer? Could freelancing be the key to your financial freedom? Are you currently an employee thinking of becoming a freelance? Or have you recently started as a freelancer and are looking to level up? Compared to traditional employment and its many constraints, freelancing offers a flexible approach to work and the potential to make more money. But making more money is not the only benefit. More and more people in Belgium are becoming freelancers. And here's why: it gives you flexibility and control over your work life balance. It lets you pursue work that aligns better with your skills and interests. You can work from almost anywhere. It frees you up from office politics and the need to commute. You become less dependent on a single employer or source of income. And last but not least, you can increase your income, save more, invest more, and build financial independence faster. Freelancing opens the door to scaling as well, because there are ways for you to level up and disconnect your time from the money you make. But how do you start? How do you avoid beginners' mistakes? What are the challenges that you could face and how to overcome them? And what are those strategies to increase your income, grow as a freelancer, and scale your business beyond your dreams? That is what we're discussing in this episode with two rockstar freelancers, Jenny and Jeff. Jenny escaped the golden cage a few years ago and started as a marketing freelancer. Today, she's the community leader for freelancers in Belgium, a thriving community of more than 13,500 freelancers. In this conversation, she shares both her personal experience and what she has learned from this incredible community. Jean Francois, we call him Jeff, is a business development specialist and sales trainer with over a decade of freelancing experience and with deep knowledge about all things sales and business development. He's the perfect guide to help you navigate your freelance journey. You can find Jenny and Jeff, both of them, on LinkedIn and in the Freelancers in Belgium Facebook community. I will put all the links in the description. Make sure to connect with them because they're incredible and they share so much knowledge. In the first part of this episode, we discussed mostly with Jenny about what it takes to become a successful freelancer. In the second part, we talk with Jeff about how to grow, develop, scale your freelancing activity and your income. We talk about the various ways that we can disconnect ourselves from exchanging time for money, both as employees, but also as freelancers when we start, so that we can create more value for our clients and, of course, then for ourselves. We cover at least 4 or 5 different paths to scale. Fascinating. This is a recording from an event that we run during Money Week 2024. And it's really interesting. We had so much amazing feedback after this event that I know that this is going to deliver a ton of value for you. So if you're considering freelancing, or you're already a freelancer, or you know someone who is in that space or is considering it, then this episode will be massively useful. Hi, my name is Sebastian Aguilar, and I am the founder of Fire Belgium, a community where we learn to take control of our finances, earn more, save better, invest better, so that we can live more and give more. And today we speak about how to make more money. And on the side, I also teach how to invest better in a simple and effective way, in a way that doesn't take you much time to actually research the market or do anything like that. And that delivers way more value for you than what the banks provide. And this way is simply investing through index funds, index ETFs. And I have a free workshop on the website that you can check out anytime. It's at firebelgium.com/investing workshop. And in that workshop, I explain how it works, why it works so well, which is basically that's how I invest and that's how I reach financial independence, and how you can get started too. It's a free workshop, so I invite you to check it out. In the meantime, enjoy this episode. Cheers. What do we mean by freelancing? What are the different ways of being a freelancer or of freelancing?
Well, I see you can be almost an employee. So you have a lot of CEOs, for example, who just invoices their company for tax optimization projects, but they don't really intend to work with multiple companies, just stick with one. Then you can be a consultant. So you work at one company and they send you out to multiple companies. Then you can be a freelancer, and there you're completely free to work at any company that you want, and you don't have anyone in between. And then you also have the entrepreneurs or solopreneurs, and they sell a mix of products and services. You can do it with or without employees, but since this presentation is about freelancers, we talk about without employees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's basically there's a spectrum, right? There's a
Indeed.
spectrum between being a full employee and then being a full startup entrepreneurs like we see in the movies. And it feels like from what you're saying is that freelancers are kind of everything in between. Is that right?
Indeed. And it's very difficult to define it. Everyone thinks something else when they hear the word freelancer, but there is a official name from it by UNISO, and that's someone self-employed who sells mainly B2B services without employing staff in temporary contracts.
Okay. Yeah, that seems to be quite a good definition from what I've seen. So it's mostly B2B. And so freelancers essentially work for businesses. So the role of a freelancer could also be in many cases filled by someone who's an actual employee. Is that right?
Indeed.
Or it can be someone that's hired as a consultant for a specific project, but that could be also someone brought internally. And then we have the freelancer, which is kind of the third step here on the framework that we have on the spectrum. So what's the difference between the consultant and the freelancer then in this specific case?
The freelancer is more independent. The consultant is always hired, usually through a consultancy company, for example. Freelancer can also be, you wouldn't have a photographer, for example, would never call himself consultant, I think. So it's more about also giving advice versus doing.
Yes. Okay. So that we're already diving into some of the details of
Yeah.
the different levels of knowledge at which we can work. This is quite interesting. And then all the way to the right, we have entrepreneurs, solopreneurs. Some of them also call themselves freelancers. How would you what's the difference between what we typically think of a freelancer and then maybe that category, entrepreneur, solopreneur?
Here I'm thinking a solopreneur is someone that might sell a mix of products and services, is always thinking about how can they optimize their business, working with multiple clients. Like I like to say the difference between relationships, that you're monogamous, so that's a contractor, or you're a bit more promiscuous, so that's the solopreneur, that you have multiple clients in 1 week, for example.
Okay. Yes, okay, that makes sense. So I can see certainly, the typical profile of the freelancer who basically used to be an employee and then decides to go freelance, but maintains the contract with the same employer, just under a different legal status.
Myself, for an example, I see myself as a freelancer if I'm organizing an event for a client, but if I organize an event for freelancers in Belgium, then I'm an entrepreneur.
Yes. Okay, that makes sense. Because then you're working on, say, your own community in that case. Whereas if you do it for a client, then you're there as event manager and you're delivering a product and service, well, a service to them. Okay, that makes sense. I think it's good to clarify because, to be honest, to me, it was also a little confusing before. And so now that we understand a bit like what is freelancing, I think a very important question is freelancing something that anyone can do? Or do you see it, more specific or tailored or adapted to a certain kind of people or certain kind of jobs?
Well, I think that there's some legal requirements, for example, age and nationality, business management skills. Basically, any job can be made by a freelancer, but some jobs makes more sense than others, and we'll talk more about that later. But I think mindset is crucial here. Freelancing is definitely not for everyone. I think you have to have a bit of an appetite for risk or be okay with risk and potential stress. You have to be a kind of person that is able to figure things out themselves without having like a team of people constantly possible to ask for, let's say, IT problems, or that, when you have a problem as a freelancer with your computer, you will have to fix it or find someone that you can pay to fix it for you. And you have to be okay with that.
And let's not forget about sales. As a freelancer, you have to do your own sales. This is where I come in later, I know, but this is one of the things you have to consider doing. It's mindset as well, but it's also about, okay, how and where can I find my clients, because they are the ones that eventually have to pay your invoices.
Yeah, and that was actually my biggest threshold to start as a freelancer. It took me ages and I was hesitating a lot because this selling myself part was really the scariest thing.
Yeah, it does sound like it's the hardest thing. I mean, again, also sharing my own journey, selling was the most difficult step in starting as an entrepreneur. Because as employees, obviously, we are told what to do. When we do work, we know we're going to get paid. And there's someone else who specializes in sales that does the selling most of the time. And so we don't really have to do that. And it takes a certain kind of person. So now I understand that there's a question of mindset, there's a question of skill set. And I think when you mentioned business management skills, this is mostly legally, right? We need to be able to basically handle accounting and basically pay taxes and those kind of things, right?
Indeed, indeed.
There's also administration requirements since we have to pay taxes and declarable things.
But there is an in-between solution that not so many considering freelancers are aware about, and that's payrolling. And that means that there's a third party that becomes your employer, and they basically take care of all your admin and invoicing and accounting in return for a small margin.
Yes, I've heard of services like this. I think there's something called Smart, at least in Wallonia, or
Smart, then to Amplo, there's several ones.
And so with those services, basically you can become a freelancer without necessarily having to do all of this admin paperwork.
You don't even have to register a VAT number. You use theirs.
Okay, so this sounds like a great way to start if you want to test something.
Yeah, or if you want to do it on the side of your regular job. And they do it from 3 hours to 2 years if you so want.
Yeah, I guess because they take a share of the revenue or profit. I don't know exactly how it's set up. There's a point at which it feels like it makes sense to go on your own.
Yeah.
And so is that really depending on revenue? And
it's revenue, but also your own appetite for account, like getting an accountant, registering, doing all the admin.
Yeah,
it's also that part.
Because the admin can be very, very annoying. It takes time, and sometimes we just want to focus on some other stuff. I experienced this myself, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. Are there other ways to have this accounting and admin work handled without feeling like it's a massive drag on revenue?
I'm a customer of Actionable, so that's an accountancy and finance and tax tool, and their sole goal is to make it easier for us freelancer to do our taxes and financial admin, and can, as a customer myself, really vouch for them that it's great.
And so that's like it's a fixed fee, and it's not necessarily based on how much you're selling or how much revenue you're generating.
It's a fixed monthly fee that they charge for the pro. They also have a freemium version with quite some benefits and features that you can use.
Okay, and so what does it take away in terms of burden? It would be the accounting, I'm guessing, because the name is Accountable.
Yeah, the bookkeeping you do completely through them. They also help with your personal income, your taxes, your VAT slips. You can easily do through them. And they also have tax coaches that gives you advice. They also have a directory of all the professional costs that you can deduct in your taxes. So it's really...
So now I'm asking more because I'm interested for myself, but how is that different from working with an accountant then?
Well, one thing is that Accountable is a lot cheaper than an accountant. And now also Accountable launched an AI accountant tool that you can ask any tax question 24/7 to this tool, and it's pretty great. So as a sole proprietor, you don't really need an accountant. And that's what they're aiming for.
Yeah. Okay. So that seems to be something in between the accountant and then the payroll smart type.
Yeah, you can also use Accountable in combination with an accountant and get a nice reduction from the accountancy services, and then get the advice from a real human accountant.
Oh yeah, okay. So this is really, I think this is really important because the admin seems to be a big hurdle to getting started. At least it was for me. It did take a while for me to figure out what I'm supposed to do before I get started. And so certainly having this 3 level of help, basically the accountant platform like Accountable or the company that deals with all of this basically for a share revenue. There are three different ways. Are there any other ways that we should be aware of?
Well, if you go to a business counter like Securex, they also give a lot of advice there and help you with the VAT number. And it's like, I think 10 years ago, it was much more difficult than it is today to start up.
Okay.
But we have a lot of resources where we really share the practical parts about.
Yes, and we're also going to share more links towards the end of the conversation, and it will be in the show notes for those who are listening to the audio version of the podcast. Okay, so we've talked about business management skills. I think that's important. And then we spoke about mindset, and I think we'll come back to mindset later. So I'll park it aside for now because it's a very big topic, and I think we'll talk about that with Jeff a bit later. So in terms of like who can become a freelancer, are there specific profiles, specific sectors where that's more common, maybe specific type of people or jobs where being a freelancer is maybe a good fit?
High demand, low supply is a great place to be. So for example, if you're a photographer or a graphic designer, you will have a lot of competition. But if you're an IT professional, if you work with sales, accountancy, recruitment, or as a performance marketeer, there is much more demand and less supply. So then you have a higher chance of picking your projects and also picking your price.
Okay. And so I guess when you work in those sectors as an employee, there's already a certain level of demand for your skill set. So there might be already recruiters approaching you. So for someone who's maybe, you know, an IT professional and he's being headhunted by recruiters to go to a different company because there's a need for that kind of skill set, would you consider that as being a sign that that person could become a freelancer, or would actually following the employee route be also a viable way of basically making more money in that sector?
Well, here I would look at the pros and cons about freelancing and see what fits your.
So it would be more of a personal decision there, depending on what the person is looking for, right? Okay.
Indeed. And also the mindset. Do you want to sell yourself? Do you want to figure things out? Do you want to deal with all the admin and the accounting and less security? Do you enjoy freedom? And is it important for you to have more flexibility? Then
okay. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about the benefits and then the challenges of becoming a freelancer. Can you tell me more about like what are the key reasons people become freelancers and what are the main benefits of becoming freelancer?
Freedom and flexibility. Maybe if we go back to the previous slides. So flexibility and freedom, definitely. The flexibility in working hours is definitely one. The possibility of selecting projects, clients, and who you're working with and what you're doing. Those would be the main reasons. And then there's a lot of fringe benefits to it.
So how much freedom can you say you have as when you become a freelancer? What do you mean by that?
For example, I have a baby girl and she didn't sleep well at creche. So she was super tired when she got home from creche. So now I bring her to creche after her morning nap at 11 o'clock. And I can do that because I'm self-employed. I couldn't do that if I would be working full time.
Yes, that's a very big one. As a dad myself, I can fully empathize with this. It's quite amazing that you're able to do that because you're a freelancer. Certainly, that means that you probably have to work at other times, or does that mean that you basically work during the nap or wake up earlier, or how do you manage that extra basically time with your family?
Yeah, I mean, I have the flexibility to choose when I work. So I work whenever it fits me and my family and my client and juggle that.
Yeah. I mean, it's an amazing benefit, of course, because that's kind of what most people complain about at work is like, well, I have to be here at a certain time and leave at a certain time.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I still have to work in the evening and weekends because, you know, so-and-so is doing it or asking for something urgent or whatever.
And another benefit that I've had in the last years, I think I can count on one hand how many times I've woken up to an alarm.
Oh, wow.
It's quite nice.
Yeah, but that's because you have a daughter.
Yeah, but it's only one, and I've been freelancing for 6 years. So
okay, that's good. Yeah, look at, you know, financial independence. Fire Belgium, it's all about freedom, right? And being able to shape your life in the way that suits you so that you can live the best life you can. And, you know, this freedom aspect of freelancing seems to be answering a lot of the needs of what people who usually seek financial freedom are looking for, right? Or are seeking. And so I'm seeing, you know, when I speak to you, and it's not today is not the first time, as I've had this impression before, but I have the feeling that freelancing does provide a lot of the benefits that maybe people who are looking for financial independence are looking for, which is independence, more control over their own time, having flexibility. But then that comes at a specific cost. And sometimes it's other needs. No, sometimes like I'm done working for someone else. I hate my boss, so I have to get out of this thing. So they just want to quit work, basically. Freelancing can also be the answer there because, well, you can choose your boss. Basically, you choose your clients. if you're in a good situation financially, then you have that chance of choosing your clients. But then that comes at a cost. No, it's not something you just switch and then it's all rainbows and unicorns. So what are the key challenges you would say of freelancing?
There, if we go to the next slide, there we have the big one, financial instability. So if you're unlucky or if your skills are not high in demand or there's something like COVID or something like that coming, you might be like, oh shit, I don't get a salary this month. So I think that's a big hurdle. Another big hurdle is working alone. There's some people who enjoy feeling part of a team and being part of something bigger that you don't get to have as a freelancer normally. And then we already spoke about the administrative burden and selling. There's less of a social safety net. And then, you also need to have that mindset of figuring it out yourself. So those would be the biggest ones. And then we've listed here some solutions as well, that for the financial instability, make sure that you have a buffer and also know your financial numbers, what you're earning and what you need to survive.
So how does that work practically? Because I'm thinking financial stability, you're probably working on a specific project and it's gonna come to an end. And then let's just go through that would say a typical example, but I don't know what's typical. So, a random example from my own brain. You have a project and it's supposed to finish in 3-4 months, and you have a couple of leads for maybe something that would start a month or two later. And you've been putting some money aside, but it's on a bank account and it's just there. You don't really know. And then for some reason, the project ends earlier. And so instead of being there for the next 3 months, you end up without any work right away. So is that something, I guess that can happen? Is that something possible?
Yes, it's very possible.
And does it happen often? Again, I don't know, the community better, but
I think it is, how do you call it? It's normal thing for one freelancer to at least, at some point in their career, go through so-called dry spells for various reasons. And then it's better to be prepared.
Yeah, because in a way, freelancing, you work for a company, B2B usually, and obviously for the company, the benefit is that they can terminate your contract fairly easily compared to an employee. That's the main benefit. Yeah. And they can bring you on board faster since you're already professional, you're prepared, you have your equipment, you have internet connection, and you come and you say, I'm ready, let's go, right? So when they want to start fast, freelancing seems interesting. And when they want to end fast, in case something happens or in case things change in their own planning, then they can then think fast. So it seems like the flexibility is kind of a double-edged sword in this way. Or have flexibility.
But it comes with more money.
It comes with more money, of course. Yeah.
So that's why companies are willing to pay more for freelancers, and also why freelancers get to earn more money.
Yes. And so the flexibility is in both ways, and it's rewarded with a higher pay. And then you say here, know your financial numbers, have a safety net. How would you do that practically?
You have to calculate all your costs that you already know with FIRE. What are your costs of living? And Jean-François out, I think there's like how much you need to survive, how much you need to live, and how much you need to thrive.
Some time ago, I created very easy sheets, Excel sheet to calculate that. It's based on what you need to live, what are your subscription and other costs as a business that you just have to list up, your weekly cost, monthly cost, quarterly cost, etc. And then obviously your own salary, because you have to pay yourself in some way, preferably as much as possible. And then you have to make sure that, because I'm working full time, I'm always a whole year, I always told myself I have to work for 9 months to live 12 months. That's my rule of thumb. If I can invoice for 9 months at the rates that I want, I can be at home for 3 months in total in the year, because you never know what can happen, but then I'm still able to live the life I'm living. So this is the rule that I'm applying for my own business.
Okay, I'm trying to process all this and see how it fits. But yeah, so you basically, this financial instability, which seems to be like one of the major drawbacks or challenges, to mitigate this is basically financial planning, but with more uncertainty and some more flexibility in terms of pricing, but also in more uncertainty, because my understanding is you would, you are basically offering your services, and it might be or might not be accepted. You could have multiple clients at the same time, or maybe just just a small client that, occupies 1 day a week or so for some time. And so you kind of have to smoothen the ride, right? So financially, you could be making a lot of money for a certain period of time and then a lot less for longer periods of time because of market conditions, change in some kind of infrastructure, legal thing, personal situation changes. And so you basically want to have a long financial runway, as we call it in the financial independence movement. So an emergency fund or a buffer. I would say it's like more than just emergency fund, right? Emergency fund is when something completely unexpected happens. But in freelancing, it seems like you need something extra that we probably deserves a different name, which is more like a buffer for basically periods of low business.
Yeah. You can also get an additional insurance called guaranteed income. So in case you, for example, fall ill for a long period of time, then this insurance fund pays you a monthly fee, for example. And what you can also do is you can take a client for, let's say, 4 days a week, and then have 1 day a week that you do smaller projects or personal projects or optimize or trading or whatever, or depending on if you work in a 5-day week or 7-day week.
Okay, yeah. So these are basically ways to sort of smoothen and try to be less dependent on just a single client potentially.
Yeah.
In your experience, the answer might be just it depends, but freelancers typically more successful when they have a single client big that pays well and that's kind of safe, a bit like an employment, or are they like more successful when they have multiple clients and kind of juggling a bunch of different things, projects here and there, left, right? Like what's the typical, I don't know if there's a successful, even would you have to define success at some point, but what would you say people like more or maybe feel more comfortable in?
Well, for some people, more money equals more freedom. For some people, fun equals more freedom.
Yeah.
So it depends. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but that's perfect. I understand. It depends on what people prefer, and then they can try to go in that direction. Also, I guess it depends on the type of profile and the type of job they do. Okay, and then working solo seems to be a big one. It's one that has touched me as well for some time. It was a bit hard working alone. So what's your advice here?
Well, number one is join the freelancers in Belgium group on Facebook. There you have almost now 14,000 people talking daily about freelancing. What you can also do is join a co-working space and meet up with fellow freelancers, because just having one lunch with a fellow freelancer can really boost the whole week.
Yeah, that makes sense. Are there like working groups that connect and just work from home, but online everyone is kind of connected?
I've seen initiatives where people have coffee or lunch together with their Zoom camera on. Yeah,
I guess it's better than eating alone.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, let's move on. I think we wanted to talk about basically what are the ways that people can make more money as freelancers compared to employees, and what does it depend on? So this is kind of the big topic of today, is like, how do we make more money as freelancers?
Jean-Francois, I leave this one to you.
My time. But if it comes to making more money as a freelancer, the main rule is to stop really selling the service as such, stop putting the hours into work, and more see what are the options that you have in selling your knowledge in another way without having to actually do the operational part of the job. I'm going to give a clear example. In my activity as a sales professional, I have basically two options. I can say option one, which is I'm going to work 6, 7, 8 hours a day for one client, doing the sale for that specific clients, and then I get an hourly rate or a daily rate, but which is kind of capped. You are very easily reach some kind of a limit when it comes to daily rates. And on the other hand, I have a second option, is to teach my clients how to do sales without me, is to teach my clients, train my clients how to do sales. And then I can sell that solution, I can sell that knowledge in a rate which is way higher than an hourly or daily rate. So this is the main reason how service providing freelancers, because this is the definition that we are talking about, service providing freelancers can actually start earning more money by changing the way they deliver their knowledge to the clients.
Okay, let's dive a bit more into all of those things here. Let's start talking about daily rates.
Yeah.
I think when we were preparing for this presentation or for this conversation, you told me that you have a framework to determine daily rates initially. How would someone start figuring this out?
So you have two main ways to limit to decipher your own daily rate, which is the old school way, which is okay, these are the costs that I have. This is the money I need to live my personal life. This is the money that I need to do my business, to run my business. This is the salary I want to pay myself. You add everything, and then you decide, okay, I'm willing to work full time, part time. I'm willing to put X amount of hours a week. And then you do a deduction and you say, okay, this is what I need to cover the costs and make a big of a margin. This is old school way. Every kind of Excel sheet can help you do that. And then recently I discovered, and you're going to put the link in the chat as well, an accountant took the challenge to say, okay, let's assume that you earn some kind of a gross salary as an employee. You have some fringe benefits such as a car, meal vouchers, and stuff like that. And then you put everything in their tool, and then they say, okay, how much would be your daily rate? Would you have the same revenue on the personal point of view? And this is a tool that's been online for a few weeks now. And I have to say, it's very interesting because it's kind of accurate. It's better than the typical old school Excel file because we always forget to add some stuff in those of the files. They thought of everything. And if you use that tool, obviously it's a freebie, so you have to give your email address and so on and so on, but at least you have some starting point of what would be your daily rate if you want to start freelancing as from tomorrow.
Right, because obviously when we go from employee to freelancer, we have to think, well, as an employee, we're paid a certain net salary with a bunch of benefits, but the employer is paying a certain gross salary, then they have employment costs and all this. And then as a freelancer, you have to pay taxes on your own social security. So you kind of have to build that all in, right? I understand the calculation. And then you have to deduct, well, the days that you're not going to be working, but you still want to be paid overall, kind of a certain amount for the full year. Some people get paid a 13th month, even in some industries. So I guess all of that it can be fairly complicated. And it's good that there are some tools that do this because I wouldn't know, like, despite me liking and loving spreadsheets, I think it would take me a while to figure this out. So it's great that there's a tool like that. Just to get an idea, what would you say is a typical range for daily rates in freelancing?
Again, sorry to repeat myself, but it
depends.
But I'm going to give a try. To me, and I'm going to focus on service-based freelancing. So I'm not talking about photographers or people having web shops and stuff like that. So apologies for those people but I'm going to work from my point of view as a service providing freelancer. I think when you are in your junior years, let's say in your 20-something years, you have maybe a few years of experience, but you want to start freelancing quite rapidly, then I would say anything from 450 a day would be a decent, not too low, not too high, kind of a decent rate to start with. Again, depending on the industry that you're in, finance and IT will be a bit more higher in the beginning. And then at more like the end of your career, let's say you're really that senior level, you have a lot of knowledge, you have a lot of expertise, then you can go to 900,000, so 1,100 euro a day, kind of easy. But again, you see it's a lot of stretch. First, you are the niche you are working with. If you are an IT specialist for the pharmaceutical industry, you'll get a higher rate than if you're working as a copywriter for a company that already has like 20 copywriters. So it's always offer and demand plays a huge role as well.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that, it's good to have an idea of the range because then people who are just getting started will be like, okay, yeah, I reached 400. I'm still junior. It seems to make sense. But if they do the math and they get to 2,000 euros a day, then there's something wrong in the math, right? It might be justifiable later or, with high expertise or niche expertise, I guess.
Yeah, and be aware, it might sound that, 450 euros a day, that sounds like a lot of money. The taxman and the social security goes away with half immediately, and then you need to have your buffer, and you need to pay for professional development, for insurances, for this and that. So in the end, there's not.
Indeed, it looks like it's a lot. 400 euros times 20 months,
Yeah.
that's like 8,000 euros a month. Well, not really, no? Of course, there's all
Yeah.
the taxes and costs and all of this, but I guess it's a good starting point to think about.
Yeah.
Certainly.
To me, after all those years, because I've been freelancing for 13 years now, I have to say that if you are in your 30s, because from statistics point of view, it's in those 30s that people really start freelancing full time. I would say rule of thumb will be 10K a month if you work full time should be like the starting point you should aim for, to create that buffer to cover other expenses, unexpected expenses, stuff like that. Let's say 10K a month is also an easy number to remember when you are setting your own goals and stuff like that. Obviously, you can have 1 month at 15 and another one at 50. That's okay. But on average, you should kind of aim for a 10K a month. And you can't have a crazy life with 10K a month. You have a lot of expenses, you have a lot of taxes mostly, but
and you work long days.
Yes, and you work full days indeed.
Yeah, I can imagine. How would you suggest people who are thinking about freelancing start? Say they have a full-time job and freelancing is something that maybe they want to try, but how do they get started maybe without committing fully and quitting their job? Like are there ways to giving like tasting freelancing without actually closing and burning all the boats?
One option is to start on the side, maybe use payrolling. You can also maybe try a sabbatical, that you put your day job on a pause and then you start and go full in. Because I heard from a fellow freelancer and she said that she decided to go full in because she wanted to go completely commit fully to starting and growing her business and have the full mind for that. So yeah, there's two options: slow and steady, or just jump and see.
But even those for who want to jump and see, one of the chances, because we all know we pay a lot of social security in Belgium, so sometimes you can get back from it. And I know, for instance, in the Flanders, you have the VDAB, which is a Springplank program, which I don't know all the details, but the main rule is, okay, you can still keep your unemployment wage or fee that you get because you have not been employed at the moment, but still start to run a freelance business on the side. You get a few months, maybe a whole year time to really see if that freelancing stuff is something for you. And if it's not, okay, then after a year you take nearly zero real financial risks. You get help, you get coached. So in Belgium, we have a lot of help to see if freelancing or entrepreneuring is something for you or not.
And two other tips: talk with fellow freelancers and talk with potential clients.
Yeah, it looks like, obviously it looks like figuring out if clients are going to hire is the main first step, right?
Yeah.
But then also it feels like after our discussion that someone who's comfortable being an employee might be scary to move into freelancing because of all the additional things that people have to deal with. So certainly being able to try it via one of those ways, it seems advisable unless it's someone who has already experienced doing something like this in the past, right?
We have a bunch of YouTube videos recorded with Jean-François about how to start as a freelancer in Belgium. Oh, yes. And there we run the practical parts, but also we have one with how to find your first client. And there we give a lot of tips about that.
YouTube channel that would be Freelancers in Belgium on YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a great resource to share with everyone. I think it's the one we see on the screen right now, and that will be also in the show notes. And then a bit before, we spoke about all the work we have to do. That's working long hours. And to some people, that's not exactly the goal. So I want to think about, we spoke about rates, we spoke about working a lot. How would you define someone being successful with freelancing? How do you define success really as a freelancer?
It depends on how you describe success. It's a choice that everybody has to make for himself. I know that a lot of people associate success with having more revenue, but it doesn't necessarily need to be. In my opinion, you can have one of those four choices. Maybe there are other choices. but having success as a freelancer can be seen as earning more money, but earning the same but spend less time in your business. That could also be the case. I think about books like the 4 Hours Work Week and stuff like that. So eventually it's about working less as well. Freelancing or being successful as a freelancer could be seen as having multiple businesses on the side. I know freelancers that still have like this freelancing label, but have multiple businesses. So it's also a way to be seen as successful. Or last but not least, and in some areas of freelancing, it happens a lot, is making the jump to hiring people and going away from the pure freelancing part and start a real company, between brackets, real company, such as I own a business, I hire people, employees or other freelancers, and I start some kind of agency, could be marketing agency, HR agency, or other sides of agencies. So these are different ways to define success, and it's important to decide for yourself what success means and not too much listen to what other people think success might be.
Yeah, and the more I dive into this, the more I listen to you, and the more I realize basically freelancing is taking back control of your time, making decisions based on your preferences, shaping your schedule, but also your work in the way that fits you, that you prefer, that kind of. So the old way of working, I was thinking about this earlier today, chatting with a journalist, but basically the old way of working was we go to school, we are taught how to get a job and work at a job, and then we go to the job and we stay there for 40 years. That's like the old way.
Yeah.
And more today, it seems that things are moving towards, well, no, at school, we don't really learn what we need in life because, well, life moves too fast and the skill set that are needed are just evolving all the time. AI now coming to disrupt everything. And it seems like freelance is basically a place where you can be, where you embrace this need for, say, self-reflection, of growth, challenge, but also this flexibility that gives you the power to shape things, but also it gives you the responsibility then to make decisions on certain things because they're not made for you, right? Being an employee, it's like a lot of decisions are made for you. You have certain ways of evolving, but they're kind of like predefined. And it's like either you pursue this or you pursue that, you change. And with freelancing, it seems like all of these limits are taken away. It requires an like skill, competence of like being able to learn, figure things out, and just manage a bunch of extra stuff, right? Which we're gonna go into sales and speaking about sales and marketing soon. But like it's like a revolution in the way we see work, basically, because we don't depend, like it's already like there's already a big chunk of independence that takes place there. And I love like, this like how you define growth and success in freelancing: more revenue, more free time, more choice, and hiring people. Part of that is basically also financial independence, right? More free time is all we need. How do you see this? Basically, freelancing being potentially like just the future of how work works. Do you see like more and more people going into freelancing, or is that just suitable for only a specific part of the population? Is everyone going to become freelancer at some point? Like,
I think everyone maybe not, but Uniso has a report every year on the freelance evolution, and every year again and again you see a clear rise on freelancing. We see it as well in the community freelancers in Belgium. Today Jenny did the welcome post, and again over 100 people joined the freelancers in Belgium group, most of them aspiring freelancers or freelancers who just started out. But the big difference I see, personally, is when I started working 25 years ago, freelancing wasn't a thing. Not at all. My generation, I'm kind of sounding old now, but my generation was more, okay, we don't have to work 30 years for the same employer. It's okay to change once in a while. This is how I discovered the market. But now in 2024, you see that people starting as a freelancer while they are students. You see people having a lot of degrees, like these typical Big Four kind of consultants, hirees, but from day one say, no, I'm not going to work 100 hours a week for you. I'm going to do my job, And all the extra hours I'm going to invest in myself, invest in a business and stuff like that. So you see a lot of evolution. And not so long ago, a Belgian company starting freelancing services for blue collar activities, such as electricians, people working in a construction company, where they just copied the freelancing vibe, the freelancing community that we associate with service providing freelancers, but also people as an electrician say, hey, I'm a handyman, but I don't want to work for one boss. I want to go freelance. And now you see those new categories of freelancers starting. So to me, yes, it's a clear evolution towards freelancing. But on the same time, you have to say that the bottleneck isn't really the freelancers, but it's more the client side and more the smaller companies, small and medium companies in Belgium, PME in French, KMO in Dutch, who are still, it's getting better, but at a pace slower than slow, but they are still kind of reluctant to work with freelancers because they have no clue what freelancers are and what they can do and what the added value is. So the main issue is not really to motivate people to become freelancers, is motivating companies to accept the new reality that freelancing is here to stay.
Yes, and I think that's one of the roles of freelancers in Belgium then, right, Jenny?
Indeed. Or if we swap it a bit, that companies will give that flexibility to their employees. Why not?
Okay, yeah, that's another perspective. Okay,
and then you have then you can have the cookie and you can eat it. You have the safety and stability while you have the flexibility.
As long as it's also beneficial for the employee, because sometimes I feel like that might be just a way of, the employer getting flexibility. But
if it's the only way for you to keep that employee.
Yeah. Okay, that might work then. Okay, let's go back to success. And when I see what we talked about success earlier, more free time, more choice, and hiring people, they kind of all depend on first generating more revenue. And while that's not the only key factor in defining success, it is a major factor, especially for financial independence and to enable basically having more free time and more choice. So let's talk about how to make more money. Okay. Jeff, where do we start with this?
It starts by accepting the fact that you cannot control everything. You have to try to control or change the things that you can have an impact on. And basically, when it comes to freelancers, there are three essential ways that you can have an impact on your business and an impact on your revenue, which is expertise. The better your knowledge or the more niche your market is, the higher chances that you have to earn more, to charge more, or to spare some time and work less. Then you have the pricing. If, let's say, you are good enough to charge double what you're charging today, then you have two decisions. I can earn twice as much, or I can work half as much as I did in the past. So again, the pricing elements, we talked about the daily rates, but you have a lot of different pricing options when it comes to freelancing. If you change the way you price your service, you market your services, then you can earn more, work less, or a combination of both. And that's obvious in one hand, but often forgotten, is you can have a huge impact on the time that you spend on doing tasks. You can, let's say I'm not very good in administrative tasks when it's come to follow up and sending offers to clients and following up invoices and stuff like that. And I have two choices. I do it myself, which will take me 2, 3, 4 times the time that an expert would spend on it. These hours won't be chargeable to my clients because I have to do admin work, or I can hire someone and I pay him or her a few tens, a few €100 for the service. But then this time is available. I can decide I don't work, and then again, I can free up some time, or I can charge another client my expertise, my knowledge, my training, etc., and then again earn more. So these are, to me, the three main pillars where you really have an impact as a freelancer, as an entrepreneur as a whole, but as a freelancer certainly, which is expertise, pricing, and time.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a bit of personal branding and perception, that you have to be also, if you're more visible and the more people know that what you're doing, then you increase your odds of getting good assignments. And I would also recommend to check tomorrow's session with Judith, because she will talk about this too.
Yes, so it's about basically here we're talking about the value we deliver to the client. It's kind of expertise and pricing together. And then the time it takes you to deliver it, because obviously if it takes you less time, you can do it for more clients. And so if you stack all of this together, then you make more money, right? And now what Jenny is referring to is also the fact that if more people know about what you offer, then there will be more demand, which can in turn lead to increased prices, certainly more volume. And then if you want to reduce volume, you can increase prices. There's also limits there, but it certainly helps to be visible and known. And that's
also to develop your sales and negotiations skills, because you can have two people with the exact same expertise, but they sell in a different way.
Yes, I want to talk about this. I just want to tackle time first, because we talked about this just before. So in terms of time, I see that there's one way of thinking, which it just came to my mind as we were speaking here, is like if you have a daily rate, and so you know how much you earn per hour that you do work, and you have enough work to fill up, a full calendar of the time that you want to spend working, then it seems to be that it's natural to delegate any kind of task that has an hourly rate that's lower. So for example, if you're able to make 100 or 200 an hour doing something, and then you have a service that takes care of part of your business for 80 euros an hour, then delegating it to that, provided that you have enough work basically to fill your hours, that seems to be quite an easy decision to make. Do you see that being the case, or not necessarily?
Not enough. I think it's when you look at this as a pure mathematical point of view, then it makes sense, and everybody will agree that yes, it makes sense. But and I can also speak for myself partly that it's not always easy to delegate the actual facts to let somebody else do something that can have an impact on your business. We talked about mindset a few times. This is also some kind of click that you have to make, that yes, I accept that someone else is doing task ABC in my business, but it's a new reality. And some people may be afraid, I don't know, maybe overprotective, other reason, but it's not always easy to let things go.
It's hard to spend as well, right? There's two parts to this, I think, is let this go, saying someone else is going to do it, but really I'm the only one who can do it to this level of quality. And then there's the letting go part, which is first, well, yes, I'm going to let go the admin stuff because I really don't want to do it. And that's kind of easier to let go, I would say, because it's really annoying. And then there's like more, involved in the business type of activities, which are part of the deliverables potentially to the client. And then letting go of that is probably harder until you are fully certain of the quality. And I can relate to that. I guess there's this one is the let go, and two is spending money on things that you might be able to do on your own. So it's a difficult it's a difficult decision, certainly. Okay, let's come back to expertise. Now, how do you make a difference with expertise? How do you change that so that you can be more successful?
But number one would be educate yourself continuously. Follow trainings, get coached.
But like in anything, or?
Yes, to me, you have more technical jobs, and I'm thinking about IT professionals. They have to keep themselves updated with the new technologies. I know that some jobs require having certificates, so you have to continuously invest in getting those certificates every year, every 2 years, etc., etc. So educating yourself, obviously, but becoming more expert is also learning other ways that you can apply your solutions and apply your knowledge. This is also a way to get more expertise. So it's a combination of education, mainly education, but also exploring what you want to do and how you want to do it.
And so you can learn through like formal education, reading, coaching, and then you can learn by doing jobs in that specific area that maybe push you forward further, I guess, gaining the experience as well, because then you can sell it to other people. And then there's expertise that you have, and then there's expertise that your clients know you have. How do you make sure your clients know you know?
That then comes again visibility part. I think that I can speak both for Jenny and I and a lot of people that we know on the scene when it comes to B2B services. LinkedIn is one of the places to show your skill, but show your knowledge, share your knowledge. most of all, not only say, hey, this is what I sell, this is what I do, this is what I teach, but actually share knowledge on a daily basis, a weekly basis, whatever. But to me, this you have to dare to claim the stage, as we often call it. You have to say, hey, look at me, this is what I do, and I'm proud about what I'm doing. And you give and you give and you give, and sometimes you ask something back, which is a new client. But this is how it works, because I know a lot of people that are the best of the best in their field, but nobody knows them.
Yes.
Then it's kind of difficult to sell yourself, to sell your services. If someone's like, okay, that Sebastian guy, who's that?
Yeah, I guess there's like the old way, which was word of mouth, right? It's like, oh, some business owners talking to another business owner, like, I'm looking for an IT professional to deal with this. Oh, I know someone. Let me send you that guy or whatever. No, it's like word of mouth used to be the way. Does it still work like that? Are there people who just function on word of mouth and it's working okay?
Word of mouth is still working very good. And basically talking about LinkedIn, still the same as social proof, referrals, sorry, and recommendations and so on are basically word of mouth.
And then there's the other part, which is go public with knowledge and expertise, which I've learned from Jenny a lot, actually. You know, now I'm a lot more active on LinkedIn, and it was from my initial conversation on visibility versus and credibility, you know. And I've been learning more about doing that. And certainly it's one thing to say, just share, and then it's another thing to actually do it, because it feels like just saying what you do sometimes works, but most times it's kind of just, it gets lost in the like sea of content that everyone is posting. So there's also a specific art to like sharing this, but it's, yeah, I feel like if we were to give advice, I would say we just post something and then improve it over time, right? Don't try to create some crazy carousel from day one, because some guru said,
know, the main rule of procrastinators is say we are going to do something about it tomorrow, but no, you have, if you have that urge to share your thoughts and share your knowledge, just do it. It took me over a year to actually start posting on LinkedIn a few years ago, and I was no, or my people won't listen to me and stuff like that. I'm just one of the many salespeople out there and stuff like that. But basically, just starts and you'll see, and you'll be normally positively surprised with the outcomes. But you have to accept some rules, such as it's not a sprint. Don't expect too much the results within a few months. It takes time. But in my opinion, I know I can speak for Jenny. I know we know a lot of people that will all claim the same. It's worth the time investment.
Because then clients come to you instead of you having to chase the clients, which is very nice.
When a client comes to you, it's automatically plus 10, plus 20% on
that. I love that.
I have another example for how you can potentially earn more. I visited a co-working space in Ghent, which was owned by a photographer. And she said that since she owned that space, she could sell her services at much higher price because the clients had a different perception of her. For example, they thought all that she had a big team behind her, even though it was just people working in her co-working space.
Okay, so sometimes just perception, of course, perception matters, right?
Yes.
So the environment in which you are and in which you present yourself makes a difference. I guess people would take me more seriously if I was in a fancy office wearing a tie, but I'm not.
Not necessarily, because it's all about authenticity. It's to me, and I met a lot of people both live and online now, and the best compliment that people can give, both colleagues, peers, clients, is, hey, you're just the same in real life than when we read some of your posts or when we see your videos. And that's to me what it's all about. It has to be Sebastian. It's about Jenny. It's about Jeff. It's about everybody's business, but it's not about appearances. That was an old TV show on the BBC, keeping up appearances, but it's not about running a freelance business.
And I don't think that we would sit here with you, Sebastian, if you would be running a tie and suit.
Who knows? I would still be me, you know? I used to wear a tie and suit every day for a big part of my professional career.
Same here.
Yeah, things have changed now. I'm dad, and I wear sweatpants.
I'm a freelancer. I'm a freelancer. I don't have pants.
Okay, let's go back to pricing. I left the last one for, the best one for the last, because there's so much to talk about here. We touched upon daily rates, but I want to know, in your experience, like, what are the ways you can get out of and move away from exchanging money for time for money, basically. So the hourly wage or the hourly rate type thing.
One of the most known way is within your field of expertise. I'm not talking about investing and stuff like that, because basically you will talk about this a whole week, I can imagine. But when it comes to selling knowledge in an other way that's hourly based, then it's about productizing your expertise. It can be about packaging your services. It can be teaching, consultancy, selling a framework, selling a method. So all of these elements where clients switch from getting your help and some kind of done with you, done for you kind of running a business. If you can switch towards, hi client, this is how you should do it, and now it's up to you to actually do it. But that framework that I will give to you will help you achieve your goals and will help you get to that desired situation. That piece of knowledge has been created one time by me, but I sell it over and over and over and over again. It's not passive income because you still have to do some of the work, but this is, to me, as long as you are solo business, this is, to me, the major way to actually scale your business from a revenue point of view.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So basically, I feel like when we talk about a day rate, and I don't know if that's the way it's done, right? But if a freelancer would come to me and say, here's my day rate, and this is the kind of work I do, and obviously this is the project, and I think it would take this long, then I'm being sold time, right? I'm being sold a person working for a specific amount of time. And, in some cases, that's what's needed. But unless I'm being told, hey, this is what we're going to achieve, and it doesn't really matter how long it takes, we're just going to get there, and I'll tell you in 2 months we get there, then that's a lot more enticing for me as someone who would hire a freelancer, right? Because I do work with freelancers, actually I hire freelancers. So I look at it from the employer perspective. But so I would say also, as someone who sells something, right? I teach people how to invest in index funds, optimize for Belgian taxes and all that. And I don't sell the fact that it's 12 hours or 15 hours of training, because that scares people away. But I sell the fact that it's done in just a few weeks. You have everything in place, and it's talking about the benefits, the value of what we're doing. How much of that impacts freelancers' pricing, for example?
A lot. If you work based on a daily rate, hourly rates, you have like 200 days a year, 8 hours a day. So you know beforehand that you will charge like 1,600 hours a year, right? Give or take. And let's say 100 euros, it's easy to calculate by head. Let's say 100 euros, but I know a lot of freelancers are not at 100 euro an hour. That means that you are at 160,000 euros a year. And that's it. That means that every year that you start with the same way of running your business, that means that you will not be able, except from a few minor changes, you will not be able to earn more than 160,000 euros. Mm-hmm. And if it's okay for you, please, by all means, keep on doing what you're doing. But if you say, I want to go to 200K, to 300K, 400K, etc., you have to realize that you will never be able to sell those same 1,600 hours at 200, 300, 400 euro an hour. That's impossible unless you're called Obama and you come. So that's a total other topic. But you have to realize that starting from your financial goals, I want to earn that amount. You have to be realistic about what an hour can gain from revenue. And if that's not enough, you have to reshape your services and reshape your packaging, your pricing models and stuff like that.
We work with an example here. I'm trying to figure out how would someone who offers, okay, let's maybe, I don't know, Jeff, I don't know if you don't mind. How about your example? How do you go from being a sales freelancer that probably works on an hourly rate, doing sales for certain companies, selling something, to basically getting out of that? Like, what's the process? What's the thinking process? What questions do you ask to get to a place where like, okay, now I've unlocked this thing. I'm not capped by my hourly rate.
Yeah. So in my personal changes that I've made in my business, I did two changes because I have two audiences. On one hand, I have more the company kind of clients, and there I'm selling a framework. Then I'm telling them, hey, in 2 months, you will go from A to B. This is the methods. This is the proven framework. And why is it proven? Because I've done it for 24 years now. I know it works. I will implement it. I will help you implement it. And I sell a result. I sell a potential result while buying the framework. And it's like you said, it doesn't matter if I invest 2, 5, or 10 hours in executing or delivering the work because I sell a result and I don't sell my time. So this is how I managed to make the switch when it comes to my company clients. And then I also have freelancers where I had to make another change because freelancers are, due to the more limited revenue, don't have the possibility to spend 2, 3, 4,000 euro to buy a framework and stuff like that. And then I created an online courses, and there I created it once. It took me like 2 weeks to make it, and it's the sales framework that I created for freelancers. It's everything you need to get started, to getting your first clients, selling your first services, etc. And it's a 100 euro e-learning package. And every time I sell it, I don't have to do anything. It's fully automated. So to me, the main purpose I had is to run break even. Okay, I know I put 2 weeks in it. I want to earn at least that amount of money, which I did. And now it's semi-passive. Like every time I sell the course, I don't have to do anything for it, but the course sells and sells and sells. It's only 100 euro. It's a 3-4 hours course. So you'll get a lot of value for that amount. But to me, I don't have to deliver it over and over again. Two examples on how I managed to switch a part of my business away from the daily rate.
Yes, and something that comes back when you speak is the word framework. And that seems to be quite key to being able to do this. So could you define what a framework is?
But a framework is, in my vision, a framework is a method, is a model. There if you do steps A, B, C, D, then you'll get the result E. That's basically the definition of a framework.
So you basically have there's one specific problem for which you have developed an effective solution, and you've designed or structured basically a step-by-step approach to solving that problem with that solution. And that's something that you can present to multiple people who have that problem to get it solved. In a way, that's also what I do.
That's what we all do, because I'm going to take a totally other example, which is not sales, because people can say, hey, Jeff, it's easy for you to say because you've done this. But let's imagine you're a recruiter. And why am I using recruiters? But a lot of freelancers are in the HR industry. And as a recruiter, you can say, hey, I'm a specialist in recruiting IT profiles, and I just do it for you. So the first step that most freelancers in recruitment do say, I'm charging by the hour. I'm going to work a few days a week for you, and I charge a day. Then step 2 could be, I'm very good in what I do. I'm still doing it myself, but I'm taking a bigger risk by not charging by day, but I'm using the no cure, no pay principle, which implies that I'm commission based. So once I find someone, I get 10K.
So you get paid on results, right? So for the company, there's an interesting as well, is that you're not just paying for someone's time, scrolling on Facebook. It's you only pay when you get the desired outcome.
And then you have a third way of selling your knowledge, which is, I'm an expert and I'm an experienced recruiter. These are the steps that I take when I'm actually recruiting for a client. Dear clients, this is my method. This is my framework I use myself when recruiting. So, dear clients, do it yourself, use my framework, and you'll get the results that you want. And you only have to pay a one-time fee of 1,000, 2,000 euro, whatever the price. But if you can sell that same framework to 5 clients, 10 clients, 100 clients, it's 100 times that same 2,000 euro, but you don't have to put any work in it because you sold the framework and the client does it by himself.
Yeah, I guess some clients might need that, and some clients might need the result-based type.
Mostly the wallet of the clients is very important because some clients have the means to pay 10, 20, 30,000 euros to buy some results, but other clients say, hey, I'm only willing to pay a very low amount of money, but I want your secret, and here comes framework, training, e-course, whatever model, because it's cheap for that one client. The sum of all those small clients make a big chunk of your revenue.
Okay, so clearly it's like moving away from what we're talking about here is moving away from hourly based pay is basically going into value based pay and saying we're talking about the outcome and the benefits, and then there's various ways of helping the client get there, and either it could be paid on delivery, only on results, or it can be packaging the whole thing as here's the solution, just pay for the solution. It doesn't matter how long I work in it. Obviously, it includes, it can include a bunch of live training and pre-recorded, a system, some processes, some hardware and software. I don't know. There's a bunch of different things that could come into this. And then there's the training part, which is kind of another separate step, right? And each of those revolve around the fact that you've basically refined a way to solve the problem with a specific framework, and that framework is the basis for solving that problem, and that's what you sell in just different ways, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then all of these work if you just do it on your own, and maybe with the help of other freelancers to put a few things together. And then we spoke about hiring people. Is that a way to scale revenue as well? I mean, to me, it seems like it's an obvious yes, but how is that different from what we've spoken about so far?
But it's different because, to put it kind of bluntly, when you're starting the agency model, then you're not selling your time, you're selling other people's time. That's the basis of most. I'm not saying all agency model, but most agency models. Let's say marketing and HR, the two main tasks, and IT as well. It's you're kind of a consultancy company, agency company, where people say, hey, Sebastian, I'm in need of a financial specialist. Do you have someone? Do you know someone? And you, Sebastian, you say, yeah, of course, Jeff, I know Jenny. I can ask Jenny to work a few days a week for you. Jenny costs 500 euro a day. You take a markup of 100 euro a day. And then every day that Jenny works, you earn 100 euro, and the rest goes to Jenny because Jenny was okay to work for 500. So this is the basic principle of starting an agency. And this is another way of because then again, you're not selling knowledge, you're still selling time, you're just not selling your time.
Yeah, and I guess that becomes possible once you've mastered the skills of marketing and sales. And when you can sell more than you can deliver, then that might become interesting to look at.
Indeed, that's when most freelancers are starting to have that agency idea, when they have way too many projects compared to the time they have.
And I guess then in those situations, to me, it seems there's two ways of dealing with it. One is increase your rates because you have way more demand, or delegate, and so that you can just deliver more volume, right?
Exactly.
Interesting. What would you say for people who are in the hourly rate, situation currently, and they maybe have a few contracts running or just one? Like, what are the practical steps to take to move forward into one of the other directions that we talked about?
But it's deciding if that is what you want. Again, the same as defining success, growth, etc. As long as you are okay to keep on doing what you're doing, please keep on doing what you're doing. I'm not here to say that everybody should scale its business, but if you want to scale your business, you have to look at your expertise, look at what you've done in the past, look at your knowledge, and try to figure it out. What are the other ways to sell it compared to what I do now? This is to me the starting point. What are the other ways to sell my knowledge? And for some people, it could be coaching. For other people, it could be agency. For other people, it could be training. whatever you have, 4, 5, 6, at least 4, 5, 6 ways to using the same knowledge but selling in a different way, and figure it out what feels best to you, and indeed, yeah, have to have the peer-to-peer session with people who've done it already, who changed their business in the past, to learn from them. So these would be first steps to
I think if we go back one more, that the first step is really to upgrade your pricing model, that instead of charging price per hour or day, that you price per delivery or project, and then it doesn't matter how long it takes you. If you work faster, you earn more, because if you charge time, if you charge an hourly rate, then you get basically punished for working fast. You can also charge a retainer. So that means that you have a contract with your client that you will be available even if you might not get work, but we will charge you anyway to be available for you. As we already mentioned, charge for value and commission, or you can make a mixed model. So what I did a few times was I charged for the strategy. So I created like a roadmap for the client of what we would do together, and then they could decide if they hired me as a freelancer or if they hired someone else. But I got charged for that strategy part.
And so that would be just the package pricing, or is that like 2-hour call plus whatever? Or,
I charged for the roadmap.
Yeah.
Instead of
Okay. Yeah. So that makes sense. I think there's this first moving gradually from just saying, well, I'm gonna work 3 days a week for 3 months, and so my hourly rate is so much, so that's how much it costs, to saying, here's the deliverable and we'll do it in 3 months. Here's my fixed price for it, irrespective of how much you work on it, as long as you deliver, right? Then the retainer, because that's also an interesting one in the sense that people are willing to pay for availability. I am doing that myself. I am paying one freelancer on retainer, and it actually helps me also get, produce work for that person to move forward. And if I'm not able to give input, then, that person gets paid without me having, Anyway, I do it for the availability.
Because I know that we have one person we all know in common, which is Maxine, who is a photographer, which is another kind of freelancer, and she decided to sell, how is it called, some kind of presets. Voilà, that's the word I was looking for, presets to use in the photographic software that she uses. And she started by selling presets, and she actually stopped doing the photography itself and only selling presets, but she was able to generate over 100,000 euro a year just selling a product base. So this is also a way to change your business. Yesterday, I was listening to a podcast with a lady in the States. Okay, again, the States, and I know that what happens in America doesn't necessarily very popular in Belgium, but she sells templates, email marketing templates, and she has a membership of 2,000 people, and all those 2,000 people pay only 9 euros a month. And as long as they pay 9 euro a month, they get 2 templates every month. And she's like, okay, but again, 2,000 people, 9 euro, it's 8K a month. And again, she creates the email template just once. So yes, it's opening your mind, thinking outside the box, trying a new thing. That's one of the beauty to me when it comes to freelancing, is that especially B2B services, knowledge sharing, etc., the costs to test something out is nearly zero. Yes, it takes time to test new stuff and to try to sell new things, but it's not, you don't need a huge investment from money side.
Yeah, as long as it's digital, I guess. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about like the more typical ways of moving forward in freelancing, kind of like evolving the freelancing business. But yeah, there's no limit to this, right? And as we talked earlier about, there's no limit in terms of revenue, and there's no limit in terms of what we can do, because that's the beauty of freelancing. It's flexibility, it's freedom, it's creativity, it's choices, and yeah, testing different business ideas is possible with freelancers because we have that time flexibility potentially, right? So I think this is a great place to wrap up. I don't know if there's anything else that you really want to share in terms of high value for the audience before we wrap up, or if we've covered most things.
We covered, I think, most of the things. One last thing, I wouldn't be happy if I forget to mention it as a sales expert, because for a lot of people, doing sales seems kind of hard, but the main trick is to know who your clients are and defining your audience. But from a sales marketing point of view, just be there where your clients are. It sounds kind of easy, cheesy, cliche, whatever you want, but it is. Why am I on LinkedIn? Because my clients are companies. My clients are people running companies, and they are on LinkedIn. If tomorrow I would be selling products to the beauty or the fashion industry, I would run all my socials on Instagram. So if you really have to know your audience very, very, very well before even starting to invest in social media or invest in sales, marketing, etc. That's really the absolute starting point, is knowing your clients, knowing your audience.
Perfect. Yes, I couldn't agree more. Thanks for that. And Jenny, any final words?
I would just say that if you're considering starting as a freelancer, or if you are a freelancer, you're super brave, because freelancing really, or making the shift, really touches upon our most biggest evolutionary fears. So, for example, the fear of the unknown, the fear of social rejection, the fear of loss. So if you can go against that, I think that's amazing.
I've gained a huge amount of respect for anyone who goes self-employed ever since I started on my, because I was like, oh my God, it's so much. But at the same time, it's so rewarding. It feels so good. And everything we talked about today is so true. It's hard, but it's so rewarding. It's really worth it. And so I certainly encourage everyone who's thinking about it to reach out to Jenny and Jeff, join the community, reach to Jeff for support on sales and business development, join Fire Belgium, because when I keep talking about this, actually, we're thinking of maybe, and this is just in the works, it's just an idea, we're putting together a coaching group or a group of people who want to work in this direction, potentially with Jenny and Jeff, to develop freelancing or to grow as freelancers and do something more regular. But this is just an idea, so we'll see. There will be a survey after this event, and if you're interested, you can let us know, and we'll try to put something together. Jenny and Jeff, where can people find you? Could you share links with us in the chat? We'll put those in the show notes for those of you who are watching the replay or listening to the podcast. Let's copy paste all those, amazing resources. Thank you for sharing.
I want to mention one thing. In June, we're organizing Freelance Sales and Marketing Day. So really, for you who are thinking about going freelance, or you are a freelancer and you want to develop those sales and negotiation skills and marketing skills, then join us in Brussels. And you can also sign up already to find out when the tickets are released.
Yes, and join freelancers in Belgium, because there you'll be, made and the newsletter, because basically Jenny and the community organize regular events and trainings, and they were worth it. I've participated to a few and they're really good, so highly recommended there. And then both Jenny and Jeff are quite active on LinkedIn, as I am, so feel free to connect with the two of them and with me as well. And they're both available for one-on-one consultations. If you found value in what we've talked about today and you want to talk to them individually, then the links are also, I think, in the chat and in the description. And I'm glad to say that I'm welcoming them as Fire Belgium consultants, experts in freelancing. So we'll be updating our list of experts on the website and providing links to book calls with them as well there. So you'll find that, I guess, by the time the podcast is released, because it's not there right now, but soon enough. Everyone, thank you for joining us. We're going to take a few questions. So anyone, there's still 186 of you guys. Thank you for staying for so long. This is a good time to ask questions. You can either put them in the chat or just turn on your mic and ask questions. And if there's no questions, then everybody goes to sleep. It's perfect. And I can carry on with my nap.
That will be a long nap.
Yes.
I saw that there was a question in the chat about languages.
Yes.
So there was someone who is moving to Belgium and finds that big threshold that he doesn't know French or Dutch to tackle that. So I started myself working with startups, because there's the default language is English. And then I started learning Dutch along the way, and now I speak and write fluently Dutch. So that's maybe one way. I think international corporations, large companies, they also have English as a default language often.
Yeah, so I think it makes sense to start in English as well and then move gradually to one side or the other, or both. There's a question from Farida. Do you want to turn on your mic, Farida?
Yes, I can. Hi, everybody. So I work for a multinational corporation. So I love my job, and this is something that I'd like to keep, but I'd love to do some freelancing on the side. And I was just kind of wondering, how feasible that is from your experience, because obviously having a full-time job is one thing and then doing something on the side. So what are the percentage of success of such combination?
It depends.
But I'm guessing it depends on how much effort you put into it. But
it's just also how much time are you willing to dedicate, because it takes away from your free time.
Okay.
Or maybe you can try to get that you work only 4 days a week and you have 1 day.
And then in terms of taxation, would that change? I know I understood like from the chat that we need to talk to an accountable and accountant. I'm still figuring out the difference. But I mean, would you be more taxed because you have 2 jobs?
It depends on the brackets. If chances are that you start, if you're doing a side hustle, that you start via platforms such as 10 Smart, etc., or that you start as a sole proprietor, but then it's all personal income and it depends on the brackets. So this is something that you have to check in which bracket you are now, because here if you're already in the maximum bracket, then the percentage will not change, but obviously 50% on 10,000 or 50% on 12,000, yes, you will pay more taxes, but you will still have more nets come. But it will be a shame to earn extra money with a side hustle to come in a higher bracket, and in the end you end up with the same money as having no side hustle.
Okay.
So this is something that you have to check.
Okay, well, I'm already on the higher bracket, so that wouldn't change anything for me, but okay, good to know. Thank you.
Plus you can deduct some professional costs that are a little bit personal as well.
Okay, that I was not aware. So I'll read also all the things that you have shared with us, so I have some homework. Thank you.
Something that we didn't talk about is the fact that one of the benefits is that some costs can be basically covered pre-tax.
Indeed.
Not some costs, I would say a lot of costs, especially for the people who have their business at their house, such as most freelancers have. You can really put a lot of costs, and I won't lie about it. Everything that we drink at home, from Coca-Cola, water, coffee, and stuff like that, are 100% on my company's name. So I don't have to invest personal money in the things that we drink at home. It seems like small things, but make the sum of all those small things a part of your electricity bill, a part of your water bill, gas bill, etc., etc., etc. It can add up quite rapidly. But to make sure to not make mistakes on that, because we don't want to have some kind of control, then it's
big fines.
To get an accountant.
Speak to an accountant. And Farida, just for clarification, Accountable is a software. It's a software platform. And an accountant is just someone who does accounting and to whom you would, speak and delegate some of the work.
Okay. I thought that Accountable was a person. That's why I was trying to Google it during the talk, but I couldn't do 2 things. Okay, got it. Thanks.
No problem. Okay, so we have more questions.
Should also take into account the learning journey, because it takes a small learning journey to become independent. In that first half year, you're getting to know everything. And that's if you do it as a side hustle, that learning journey will be part of that.
And sometimes, the entire income isn't the only motivation to become a freelancer. And certainly the potential development and the doors it opens, because that could be the way to unlock your income, testing it just, a little bit each week or 1 day a week. If you realize that if you were to switch completely, then you would double your total income, then that might be worth testing for a while, right? I think the learning, as Harold said here, and the self-development is a big part of the reward of doing this. Certainly has been for me. Like, the learning journey is insane. Like, I'm learning nonstop and way more now than when I was an employee, right? And it's just because I'm faced with challenges nonstop, and I'm always asking the tough questions, like, how do I reach more people? How do I create more value that's really valuable, that really helps people, that delivers the result for real, instead of office politics or whatever stuff that would take some of my mind when I was back as an employee. So certainly there's huge benefits in just having to fight for yourself in a way.
Makes you a more valuable professional either way, as a freelancer, but also as an employee.
Like today I get to teach, 190 something people about freelancing, and I have no idea about freelance, but this is the journey it's taken me to, right? I've built a community, and now I had to learn, basically this is part of me trying to reach more people, to bring awareness to better personal finance. And I had to ask myself the question, how do I get to help more people and just create more value? And one of those ways is community, invite experts, and then connect with everyone and just spread the word, bring people together, create value, create momentum, have people feedback and all of this. It's like, it's just this, what we're doing today is the result of that journey for me. And my goal is we do this next year, we have 1,000 people, you know, it's like, but it's possible within this space. It's not as an employee practically, like not like that wouldn't be my personal impact. It would be, you know, the company impact or whatever. So yeah, anyway, lots of benefits in doing this as well that are beyond just money.
There was an interesting question from Xavier Rumbout. How do you overcome the fear of not daring to ask higher day rates, aka imposter syndrome, fearing you won't deliver enough value? It's not like the fear, it's about this is a step that you have to overcome, because I cannot solve fear in itself, but a trick I would give to you to feel more at ease when talking about rates the next time is starting from the principle that if a client says yes directly, you're asking not enough. Period. That's really an easy thing. If you ask 500 euro a day and every client say yes, you're not charging enough, basically. Second trick that I do, especially for people like you who don't want to make a big jump in one time, is every 3 deals that you made and they said yes, add 5% for the next 3 deals. And then again, the next 3 deals plus 5%, and so on, until you find a client that says, no, that's too expensive. And then that's the signal that you're kind of at the rate that you should be. But starting then +5 until a client or multiple clients say no, then that's a more practical way to find out what you're worth in your market.
Nice, really good advice.
Yes, you can also check that with the freelancers in Belgium. Ask the questions in freelancers in Belgium. Hey, I'm this professional. I want to deliver this. What should I charge?
Nice. Yeah, there's a lot of value there in asking peers because then they've gone through it, right?
Indeed.
Someone is asking, it's a question from Christoph here. As we mentioned in the conversation, promote yourself, go from operations to management to strategy. Do you necessarily have to assume some management position, or can you immediately transition to strategy? I'm currently working in the operational side and want to share my strategic insight at some point in the future, but I don't have the ambition to be a manager.
I already answered, but I'm going to answer in the group, especially when we're talking about services and knowledge in the B2B area. It's about the value you have to offer. To be honest, I have no degree. I stopped school at 18. I started working at 19. Then I had a lot of sales job, and I started freelancing when I still didn't really have management roles to say that, but I started freelancing either way. And then by doing the job, I grew my knowledge and I get better and better and better in what I've done. So to me, the main thing is, as long as you deliver value, it doesn't really matter what roles you had in the past.
Brilliant. We have a question from Albina here. How much time does it take? To gain some stability as a freelancer? I started a year ago and it's been a journey with a lot of learning, but I still feel that there is so much to figure out.
It really depends on what you do, Albina. If you were where you are on that spectrum of our first slide, how much of an entrepreneur or almost employee are you? The closer you are to almost employee, the faster it goes. But if you're an entrepreneur, I'm sorry to say, but it will be a forever roller coaster if you're constantly optimizing and doing better and trying things.
Nothing to add. Perfect answer to that.
Yes, I agree too. For me, it's like it never ends. But I'm not in the freelancing.
Yeah, and also if it ends, then you're not doing it right anymore.
There's always something to improve, no? But it's true that I think there's the question here is like maybe there's been some struggle, and how long does it typically take until we feel like we're under control, right?
And of course, if you're in a place where you have a lot of supply but not a lot of demand, then you really have to put your elbows constantly in front and struggle to get clients, and then it will take also a long time to get that stability. But if it's about learning, then I would also say go again, like talk with other freelancers. You will learn so much faster and you get credible advice rather than spending hours on Google and finding 5 different sources and 5 different answers to one question, and you don't know which one is correct.
Exactly.
Really agree. All right, there's one here from Nina. I'm currently moving from software development to project management. There aren't really any opportunities for me with my current client? Would it be insane to go freelance in a role you have, I guess, no experience in? Or I'm not sure if that's what you meant, Nina. No experiences. Moving from software development to project management, no opportunities with current clients.
If it's project management within C development, I think that's like the next natural promotion. So why not? And I would maybe try to get experience with an employer first. It doesn't have to be the employer that you're having now, but try to get experience maybe with an employer to be less risk-free and also to have a bit more experience and credibility, and then go freelance.
Perfect. Awesome. So I think this is where we're going to wrap the event. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you, Jeff, and thank you, Jenny, for sharing all your experience and tips and strategies. This has been a fascinating conversation. It's going to be an amazing podcast. I'm very happy that we recorded this and that many more people will be able to benefit. So all the links were pasted. I think you can put them one more time in the chat if you have them on Control-C, Control-V type shortcut. Put them up again there so that people can check again if there's anything they've missed. And we will put them in the show notes, in the description for those who are watching or listening to the replay. And aside from that, thank you, everyone.